Today we're going to be graphing parabolas, which come from quadratic equations, and you will need your graphing calculator to do this lesson. So write down the steps. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that, and then we're going to follow these steps to do the examples. So in the first problem it says graph the following and label the axis of symmetry. So they give you f of x equals x squared plus 6x plus 4. Remember that f of x is the same thing as y equals. So this is the same exact equation as if you were to see y equals x squared plus 6x plus 4. So step number 1 said determine a, b, and c from the standard form of f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is the number that's in front of the x squared, b is the number that's in front of the x, and c is the number that's just added at the end, or subtracted at the end. So if you look at the first problem, this says x squared. If there's no number in front, we should remember that there's really a 1 here. So I'm going to say a is 1, b is how many x's I have, that's 6, and c is 4. So I'm going to use those values to do the rest of the problem. So we're going to first start with the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is a line that goes down the middle of your parabola that cuts the parabola in half. So I'm just going to draw a little diagram here. Let's say that you have a parabola that looks like this. Parabola is a U-shaped graph. At the very bottom of this graph will be a vertex, and in the middle of the graph will be an axis of symmetry. This is a vertical line that cuts the graph in half, and everything on the left side matches up evenly with everything on the right side. So we're going to find that axis of symmetry. So you're going to do the formula negative b over 2a. So this was originally 6. If I do negative 6, that's negative b, over 2 times a, which is 1. I just need to simplify, and negative 6 over 2 is equal to negative 3. So my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3. Now you do have to find this first, even though this is listed first. The vertex is on the axis of symmetry, and it's also on your parabola. So in order to find my vertex, I know that my x-coordinate is going to be whatever this number is. Right? So find my vertex, the x-coordinate is the number that you got by doing negative b over 2a, and then we just need to find what y is. So to find what y is, we're going to take that number and substitute it into this equation. Everywhere you see an x, you're going to replace it with a negative 3. So if you want to do 1x squared plus 6x plus 4, that's good. Or you could just leave off the 1. But I'm going to substitute in negative 3 here. Make sure you do it in both places that you have an x, and then I'm going to use my calculator. So I have 1 times negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 4. All right, that gives me negative 5. So I've determined that my vertex is at negative 3, negative 5. Then you're going to make a table of values using your calculator. So I'm going to go to y equals. I need to put the equation in. My equation is, I'm just going to do x squared plus 6x plus 4. And then I'm going to either hit graph or I'm going to hit zoom 6 just to make sure that I have the standard window on here. All right, so we have a U-shaped parabola. It opens up. One other thing that will indicate that your graph is opening up is if you look at the lead coefficient. Since this is a positive one, it should open up. If it was a negative, then it would open down. All right, I know that my vertex is at negative 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's my vertex. And to find the rest of the values, I'm going to hit second graph. So if you hit that button, you should see a table of values. When I copy down my table of values, I need to at least have my vertex, this negative 3, negative 5, that needs to be in my table. And then I would pick 2 points above and 2 points below. And all I'm doing is copying down the numbers. All right, so from here I know here's my vertex. And then I'm going to graph negative 4, negative 4, negative 5, negative 1, Negative 3, negative 5 we've got, negative 2, negative 4 is here, and negative 1, negative 1. Okay, so my parabola looks like this, and my axis of symmetry is this x equals negative 3. So if you look at your graph, everything on the left side, if I were to fold this in half over the line, it should match up with everything on the right side. Okay? I'm going to actually add a step 5. Plot the points and draw the parabola. Okay, problem number 2. So first thing we're going to do is identify A, B, and C. So A is negative 1, B is negative 4, C is 1. Step 2, we're going to do the opposite of B. So opposite of negative 4, what's the opposite of negative 4 is really positive 4 over 2 times A, which is negative 1. So we're going to do 4 over negative 2, which is negative 2. That tells me my axis of symmetry. So this time I'm going to draw that on my graph first. I'm going to draw in negative 2. And I know that half my parabola should be on the left side and half my parabola should be on the right side. So I know that my vertex is going to be negative 2 comma something, and in order to find that, I'm going to take this value and substitute it in for x. So I'm going to use my calculator, and I'm going to do negative, and then in parentheses I'm going to do negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2 plus 1. Alright, so notice that I had negative 1 or a negative, then something squared minus 4 times something plus 1. That negative 2 went into both of those places. Okay, so if I hit enter, I get 5. Now I know that my vertex is at negative 2, negative 5. Alright, and then I'm going to go to y equals and graph my equation, which was negative x squared minus 4x plus 1. I'm going to hit graph so I see what the picture looks like. And then I'm going to hit second graph to get a table of values. So now my vertex, negative 2, 5, needs to be in there, which it is, and then I need to pick a couple of points above and a couple of points below. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to plot the points and then connect the dots to make my parabola. So I've got negative 4, negative 1, negative 3, no, negative 4, positive 1. Alright, ignore this. I graphed that wrong, of course. Negative 4, positive 1, negative 3, 4, negative 2, positive 5. I put it at negative 5 earlier. Sorry about that. Negative 1, 4, and 0, 1. Alright, so these are my 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can pick more points if you want to. You can copy down as many of them from your table of values as you want, but you just need enough to get the U shape. All right, 2 more problems. So I'll try to leave the steps up here. All right, problem number 3, I need to identify A, B, and C. So A is 2, B is 4, and C is negative 2. Then I'm going to start with the formula opposite of B, so opposite of 4 over 2 times A, 2 times 2. Negative 4 over 4 is negative 1. That tells me that my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1. So I know that I'm going to have a vertical line at x equals negative 1. And then to find my vertex, I'm going to replace all my x's in the equation with this value, which is negative 1. So my calculator will help me simplify that. I'm going to do 2 times negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 minus 2. And that tells me that my vertex is at negative 1, negative 4. All right, so now I'm going to make my table of values. Negative 1, negative 4 should be in the middle of that table. And then I'm going to go to y equals, type in the equation 2x squared plus 4x minus 2. And then I'm going to see what the picture looks like. So it's going to be over here somewhere, and then hit second graph, and I can copy down some numbers. So I've got 0, negative 2, 1, 4, and then I need a couple above. So negative 2, negative 2, negative 3, 4. All right. So now I'm going to plot those on my graph. Negative 3, positive 4, negative 2, negative 2, negative 1, negative 4, 0, negative 2, and 1, 4. And you can always double check, should this graph be opening up? Well, the lead coefficient was positive. And since that's positive, that means that it should open up. Okay. Last problem. So I'm going to identify A, B, and C. There's no number in front, so that's a 1. B is 3, and C is negative 2. If I do opposite of B over 2A, I get negative 3 over 2. So that's negative 1.5. All right, so my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1.5, which is a vertical line in between negative 1 and negative 2. All right, so I'm going to find out where my vertex is. I've got x squared, or if you want to say 1x squared plus 3x minus 2. And in there, I should put in negative 1.5. So on my calculator, I'm going to go to my main screen. I've got 1 times negative 1.5 squared plus 3 times negative 1.5 minus 2. And that tells me that my vertex is at negative 1.5, comma, negative 4.25. All right, so I'm going to go to y equals, type in my equation. You don't really need the 1 there, but you can have it there if you want. And I'm going to hit graph. So this graph is over here. And then I'm going to hit second table. Now, I'm not going to be able to find negative 1.5 on my table here. If you want to, you can hit second window and change your table to go, instead of counting by 1s, you can make it count by 0.5s. But I would rather just pick out whole numbers anyway, so I'm going to leave this. So I know that my vertex should be at negative 1.5 and negative 4.25. So that would be between here and here. So I can copy down negative 2, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, and then a couple of them on the other side. It is more convenient when you can see your vertex there, but you don't really have to have it. I know that negative 1.5 is in between negative 1 and 2, so I'm good. All right, so I'm going to graph. Let's see if we can do this right this time. Negative 3, negative 2, negative 2, negative 4. Now negative 1.5 and 4.25 is right there. Negative 1, negative 4, and 0, negative 2. If I want a couple more points, I can do negative 4, 2, and positive 1, 2. Maybe that'll help you draw a nicer picture, but you don't really have to. I would say at least 5 points should be graphed. Okay? Then you're all done.